Today, I'm joined by Stephen Ho from Better Homes and Gardens, a 13-year veteran of the Toronto real estate market with a specific focus in Mississauga, where he's born and raised. Steve, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, thank you very much for joining us. And Steve, I wanted you to join us today to talk about the freshly released Toronto Real Estate Board numbers. We always look to them with great anticipation. And I think September was really important. So tell me, how do we make sense of what was released? I guess start with what were the most important numbers that stood out for you?
Well, the numbers are a bit not seasonal. It's very different from what we've seen in the past, but everything about this year hasn't been conventional at all. So some of the numbers, sales are up 42% from the same time last year. Prices up 14%. Days on market down 35%. New listings are up 30%. So there's all these numbers are quite substantial, but what does it really tell us? Is it really that much more than last September? Because this year has not been a typical year.
Yeah, like those numbers stand out. I mean, I almost fell out of my chair when I saw the July numbers, and then the August numbers, and now the September numbers. And eventually it's got to end, right? Or is this sustainable? And how do we really make sense? Is this bubble territory? Is it booming? Is it healthy? Can you share a little bit about that with us?
So yeah, I've been keeping track of the numbers for the entire year. I'll share a little graph I kind of been keeping track of. So this
I'm a sucker for a graph, Steve. Pull up a graph anytime.
Absolutely, because this is what really tells us kind of what happened. And with all the numbers, it's kind of hard to digest and really make sense of what it means. So in terms of this graph, the green lines are new listings, the blue lines are the solds, and the yellow line is 7-day average of percentage of listings sold. So this is from January 1st, and you can see, we were around 97% sold, which is on fire. It was crazy, 20, 30 offers on listings. It was just crazy.
Right.
And then COVID happens and the lockdown happens, and you can see within the month, so end of February to the end of March here, it dropped down to 11% of listings sold.
Wow.
It was a nosedive. Now that makes sense because people were told to stay home and, be COVID cautious and socially responsible. So, but this is also the typical spring market time. So from March till pretty much end of June, there's this whole black void here of activity. So that's all since then been shifted over into the summer months. So the July, August, September numbers are kind of jarring compared to previous July, August, and September. So looking at the yellow bar here, we're hovering since June, I'd say. We've been hovering around the 60% of listings sold, which is a very healthy amount.
Can you just interpret for us what listings to sales, what that ratio means to you, or what the significance of it is? Why is it an important health metric?
So that tells us the consumption rate, right? Supply and demand. However many listings, so supply versus number of sales, which is the demand. Is it a healthy balance, or is it a lot or not a lot? That's going to tell us where the market is at and where it's kind of going. And so at the beginning of the year, the demand was way higher than the supply. So now we're into a more healthy range, which we're still in a seller's market. A typical market, we're probably hovering around the 50 to 40% mark. So we're still in a seller's demand. There's still not enough supply for the amount of sales that we're seeing.
That's interesting. And looking at this graph, Steve, I can't help but wonder if COVID didn't hit, what the story of 2020 in real estate would have been. I mean, there would have had to be government perhaps influence on the market, intervention to slow it down, because at that 90% mark, that's dangerous, isn't it?
Yeah, it's unsustainable. Like, I remember going through that time, and it was just a war zone out there. And then COVID happens, and it just flipped the tables on everybody.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say what would have happened, but
Mm-hmm.
what we're seeing now is a pretty stable, steady market.
Right. So then the question from here would be, how do we feel the future is gonna, I know this is a loaded question, but is this sustainable from your view and what you're experiencing in the market? I mean, we're already into October. Are you feeling that things are continuing at this steady level?
From what we're seeing, it seems pretty stable, but it's hard to tell. You know, we're entering this second wave.
Mm-hmm.
You know, immigration still not kind of open the doors yet.
Right.
Interest rates are still very, very low, as you probably know.
Yes.
So it's hard to tell. You know, we're entering winter soon. Winter is coming.
Mm-hmm.
Christmas is around the corner.
Mm-hmm.
Typically, the market slows down around that time. We're seeing a little bit of, I wouldn't say slowdown, but it's kind of calming a little bit. But
right.
Who knows what happens? You know, the mortgage deferrals, CERB, like what's going to happen with government funding and subsidies, like what's going to happen. There's a lot that we still don't know. So
yep.
How is the market going to react to that? It's still to be determined.
Yeah, no, and that's the big question. There's so much uncertainty still in the future to answer these questions. And one last thing to wrap up here before we go too much on for too long is around condominiums, because I understand that not all property types are equal. And so what's the condo market looking like, and how are you reading things there?
So the condo market is slowed down the most. I think, you know, for a variety of reasons. You know, one is immigration. So that's generally
Mm-hmm.
the rental market that comes in. And, you know, as you know, rental rates have dropped significantly. The other thing is the lifestyle changes. You know, people are working from home. They need a home office, maybe a little bit more space. So they're looking at alternative options. And then the other thing is, you know, they're kind of choosing to live in different areas.
Right.
And people are a little bit more cautious about overexposure with high traffic areas like elevators and common areas and things like that. So those are a couple of things about the condo market right now. But what this tells me is also there's opportunity. You know, immigration is going to come back eventually. We just don't know when. But right now, people are shying away from that. So there's opportunity when others are not buying. This is where opportunity lies.
Right. Yeah, I think I love this quote from Warren Buffett: "Be fearful when others are greedy, and greedy when others are fearful." And so there's fear in the condo market, and it might be the right opportunity to pick up a good property at a reasonable price now.
Absolutely.
Yeah, very good, Stephen. Well, that was a lot of great information, and I really appreciate your candor and the time that you took to share this with us. If anybody viewing wants to get in touch with you, how do they get in touch with Mr. Stephen Ho?
You guys can check it out on Instagram at Mr_Saga or MrSaga.ca. And yeah, you can reach me anytime. Love to chat.
Mr. Saga is like Mr. Lube, M-I-S-T-E-R. There it is,
S-A-U-G-A.
over the shoulder. Go. Nice. Very good. Steve, thanks so much again. Really appreciate it.
Thanks for having me.